About 125,000 years ago, on the shore of a lake in what is now Germany, a group of Neanderthals dragged in the bones of at least 170 large animals, horses, deer, giant aurochs. Then they smashed every one of those bones into more than 100,000 splinters and boiled them in water. They were not after meat. The meat was already gone, stripped off and eaten days earlier. What they wanted was the grease inside the bone. They ran what archaeologists have described as a fat factory, an industrial operation in the Stone Age dedicated to extracting one nutrient. You have that same instinct. It fires every time you smell bacon in a pan, or reach for the crispy skin instead of the plain chicken breast, or eat the frosting and leave half the cake sitting on the plate. You have been told that craving is weakness, a character flaw, something to white-knuckle your way past. It is not weakness. It is a 2-million-year-old survival system doing exactly what it was built to do. So why does an instinct that kept your ancestors alive now make you eat past the point of comfort night after night in a kitchen full of food? The answer is not that fat is bad for you. The answer is much stranger than that. Picture one of your ancestors, 300,000 years ago, standing over a carcass at the end of a long, cold week. Her hands are cracked. She has walked 11 miles today. The animal in front of her took 4 people and most of the afternoon to bring down, and she is about to make a decision that will look insane to you. Because the animal is lean. It is late winter and the fat has burned off it, and she knows, the way you know not to touch a hot pan, that this meat alone will not save her.
That is not a figure of speech. There is a real condition, and Arctic explorers gave it a name: rabbit starvation. Eat nothing but very lean meat, and within about a week, you get headaches, weakness, diarrhea, and a hunger that food will not touch. You can eat until your stomach aches and still starve to death. The reason is your liver. It can only convert so much protein into usable energy at once, roughly a third of your daily calories, before the system backs up. Push past that ceiling and protein stops being food and starts being a problem your body has to clean up. The explorer Vilhjalmur Stephenson lived on almost nothing but meat for years in the Arctic and described this precisely. When researchers put him on lean meat under supervision in New York in 1928, he was sick within days. They gave him fat, he was fine again in under 24 hours. So your ancestor is not being greedy when she goes for the fat. She is doing arithmetic her body already knows how to do. Gram for gram, fat carries more than twice the energy of protein. And unlike protein, there is no ceiling on it, no cap, no point where more becomes dangerous. That is why she picks up a stone and cracks the leg bone open. Inside is a plug of nearly pure fat that no other scavenger on that landscape can reach. Not the hyenas, not the vultures, because no other animal out there has a hammerstone and a plan. And here is the part that should reframe how you picture the Stone Age. Cracking bones is not scavenging leftovers. It is the opposite. It is claiming the single most valuable thing on the entire carcass, the part everyone else has to walk away from. The archaeologist John Speth spent decades documenting this pattern across hunter-gatherer records, and the same behavior appears everywhere. Hunters abandoning lean animals in late winter, hunters taking the fatty parts and leaving perfectly good muscle to rot, groups timing an entire year's movement around when the caribou would be fattest. Read that as hunting for meat, and it looks wasteful. Read it as hunting for fat, and it is ruthlessly efficient. Researchers Miki Ben-Dor and Ran Bar-Kai at Tel Aviv University have argued this shaped us as a species, that for most of our existence, humans specialized in pulling the fattest calories out of the largest animals available, and that our bodies were built around a food supply that was rich, rare, and worth almost any risk to get. And it was not only ancient. The anthropologist Frank Marlowe spent years with the Hadza, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, asking them to rank their foods. Honey came first. Meat came second. Not because of taste in the way you think about taste, but because those two things are where the energy is, and everything else in the diet is a compromise. Which brings us to the problem, because that instinct was calibrated to a world that stopped existing roughly 100 years ago. Here is what fat used to be. Seasonal. An animal is fat in autumn and lean in spring, and there is nothing you can do about it. Difficult. You had to track it, kill it, butcher it, and break bone to reach the best of it. And critically, it never showed up alone. Fat came welded to protein, water, sinew, and 20 minutes of hard chewing. Your brain never needed a strong brake on fat because the world already had one built in. Scarcity was the brake. Effort was the brake. The seasons were the brake. Now look at what you ate today. Fat Purified. Separated from the animal, from the seed, from the chewing, from the season. Shelf-stable. Available at 2 in the morning, 12 feet from where you sleep. And then something that never existed in nature at all. Fat combined with fast sugar in the same bite. A donut. Ice cream. A cookie. Chips dusted with sweet powder. A milkshake. Think about it for a second. There is essentially no food on this planet that arrives loaded with heavy fat and heavy sugar at the same time. Not one. Your ancestors ate fat or they ate honey and fruit, never both in the same mouthful. And it turns out your brain treats that combination as something extraordinary. Researchers at Yale, in work led by Alexandra Di Felici Antonio in Dana Small's lab, scanned people's brains while they looked at food. Fatty foods lit up reward circuits. Sugary foods lit up reward circuits. But foods with both did not simply add the two signals together. They produced a response bigger than the sum of the parts. And people would pay more money for those foods, even when the calories were identical. Your reward system has no category for that combination, so it does the only thing it can do. It flags it as the most valuable food it has ever encountered, every single time. It is not lying to you. It is running a calculation from a world where finding that much energy in one place meant you had won. So what does this actually cost you? There was a study that answers that with uncomfortable precision. In 2019, Kevin Hall and his team at the National Institutes of Health moved 20 adults into a research facility for a month. 2 diets matched for calories offered for sugar, fat, fiber, and salt. One built from whole ingredients, one ultra-processed. Everyone could eat as much as they wanted, whenever they wanted. On the ultra-processed diet, people ate about 500 extra calories a day. Not because they reported being hungrier. They ate faster, and their bodies did not register fullness in time to stop them. In 2 weeks, they gained around 2 pounds. On the whole food version, the same people lost about the same amount. Same appetites, same willpower, same humans. The food itself moved the line. That is the mismatch expressed as a single number. 500 calories a day of deliberate engineering, aimed at a craving that took 2 million years to install and cannot be uninstalled. If you want to know what else evolution never prepared you for, subscribe to Neanderthink. And notice when it hits you hardest. Not at 9 in the morning after a full night's sleep. It hits when you are tired, stressed, cold, and it is late. Those were exactly the conditions where seeking fat saved your ancestors' life. Low energy, high demand, dropping temperature, a body doing the math and screaming for the densest fuel available. Your system still reads that signal the same way it did on the tundra. It just does not know that the danger is past, and the freezer is full. This is why the standard advice fails you. Eat less, have more discipline, track everything. All of it assumes you are fighting a bad habit, when you are actually arguing with a 2-million-year-old instinct that has never once been wrong before now. So here is the reframe, and it is not about willpower. Your craving for fat is not the problem. It is accurate. It is the same signal that carried your family line through ice ages, famines, and winters that killed most of the animals around them. That signal is a piece of inherited equipment that worked flawlessly for 10,000 generations. The problem is that food companies located the one combination your body has no defense against and put it in every checkout aisle in the country. Which means the useful move is not eating less fat, it is refusing to eat fat and fast sugar in the same bite. Butter on real bread, cheese with an apple, fatty meat with vegetables, whole nuts by the handful. Your body has a functioning break for every one of those because it has met them before and knows what to do. It has no break at all for a glazed donut. It never will. That is not a flaw you can train out of yourself, any more than you can train yourself out of feeling cold. So stop fighting the craving. Change what is standing there when it arrives. Those Neanderthals at the lake were not gorging themselves. They were solving the hardest problem of their lives, and the answer was locked inside a bone that took a hammerstone, a fire, and a full day of work to open. You have inherited their solution. You just happen to live in a world where the bone is already cracked, the fat is already out, and nobody ever taught your brain how to stop. And fat is not the only thing your ancestors spent their lives starving for. There is one more thing they chased constantly that you now get in unlimited supply, and it may be doing more damage to you than any donut ever could.